Welcome back to the channel, Valuable Coins HD, that uncovers the secrets hidden in your pocket change. Today, we're unlocking the mystery of a coin that millions of people have touched, spent, or tossed into jars without a second thought, the 1974 Washington quarter. At first glance, it's just a regular 25-cent piece, but what if I told you that one rare version of this coin could be worth a staggering amount of money? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll learn what makes some 1974 quarters incredibly valuable, and you just might realize you've had a hidden treasure in your possession all along. Let's start with a bit of history. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American currency since 1932, originally introduced to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. By 1974, the coin's design was familiar across the country: Washington's dignified profile on the front, and the majestic eagle on the back. These coins were made primarily from a copper-nickel clad. Since silver had been phased out a few years earlier, millions of quarters were struck in 1974 at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Most of these ended up in circulation, showing wear and tear from years of use. So what makes some of them so incredibly valuable today? It all comes down to condition, rarity, and, most exciting of all, errors. First, condition. Coins that were never circulated, never scratched or dinged, and have been preserved in mint state are always more appealing to collectors. If you're lucky enough to have a 1974 quarter that still shines like the day it was minted, you're already off to a great start. But now let's talk about what really makes collectors go wild: minting errors. Some 1974 Washington quarters were struck with dramatic mistakes that slipped past quality control. These include double dies, where the lettering or numbers appear slightly duplicated due to a misalignment during the striking process. If you see doubling on words like Liberty or the date itself, you might have something rare. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin is misaligned during minting, creating a unique crescent-shaped blank space. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin is literally missing from the edge. This happens when the metal blank wasn't cut properly before striking, and here's where it gets even more exciting. Some extremely rare 1974 quarters have surfaced with even stranger errors, such as being struck on the wrong planchet altogether. Imagine a quarter that was accidentally struck on a dime blank, or one made with silver despite the change in metal composition years earlier. These rare anomalies are the ones that drive coin collectors absolutely crazy. Collectors love the 1974 quarter not just for its errors, but because it's from a fascinating transitional era in U.S. coinage, right before the country began preparing for the bicentennial coin designs of 1976. That makes the 1974 coin a final chapter in a classic coinage era, and a must-have for many numismatists. Now, for the moment you've all been waiting for. If you happen to have one of these rare 1974 Washington quarters, especially one with a dramatic mint error in mint condition, it could be worth as much as $86,000. Yes, you heard that right. A regular-looking quarter, worth $86,000 to the right collector. So the next time you're going through your change, don't overlook that old quarter. Take a closer look. You might be holding a small piece of American history, and a small fortune. Today, we're putting the spotlight on a coin that many people overlook, yet some versions of it could be worth far more than you'd ever expect. That's right, we're talking about the 1988 Washington quarter from the United States of America. Now, before you say, "It's just a quarter," let me stop you right there. Because this particular coin, minted in 1988, might seem ordinary at first glance, but there are versions of it out there that are anything but ordinary. Some of these quarters have hidden details, shocking minting errors, and collector appeal so strong that one rare example has sold for tens of thousands of dollars. You definitely want to stick around until the end of this video, because you'll want to hear the exact amount one of these coins was valued at. Let's rewind a bit to 1988. The US was in the heart of the Reagan era, the Cold War was winding down, and the American economy was in full swing. During this time, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of Washington quarters, as it had been doing for decades. The design was classic: George Washington's bold profile on the front, facing left, with the words "Liberty" above, and "In God We Trust" to the left. On the reverse, the majestic eagle spread its wings wide over a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness. But even in such a common design and high mintage year, there's a hidden layer of excitement. Because not all 1988 quarters are created equal, most 1988 Washington quarters were minted in Philadelphia and Denver. You can check the mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail, either a P for Philadelphia or a D for Denver. While these coins were made by the millions and spent in everyday transactions, the value for collectors today lies in a few critical factors: condition, rarity, and most importantly, errors. Let's talk about condition first. A 1988 quarter that was tossed in pockets, scraped across vending machines, or spent a decade at the bottom of a drawer might not catch a collector's eye. But one that remained untouched? A brilliant, uncirculated coin with no scratches, no fingerprints, no wear? That's a totally different story. Collectors are willing to pay a premium for coins in mint state, especially those graded MS 65 or higher. But what really makes the 1988 quarter special, what gives it the potential to be worth thousands, is the rare minting errors that happen during production. And let me tell you, some of these errors are absolutely wild. One of the most sought-after types is the off-center strike. That's when the coin is struck improperly, and part of the design is missing, leaving a crescent-shaped blank. Some 1988 quarters have also surfaced with clipped planchets, where a chunk of the coin is literally missing due to a mishap when the metal blanks were punched out. Another incredible variety is the double die. This happens when the coin die shifts slightly between strikes, causing some of the lettering or numbers to appear doubled. You might see this on the word Liberty or in the date 1988. If you've got a quarter with bold, obvious doubling, stop everything, because you could be holding a rare gem. Now, imagine this: there are reports of 1988 quarters struck on the wrong planchet altogether. That means a quarter accidentally made using the metal blank intended for a different denomination, like a dime or a foreign coin. These mistakes are extremely rare, and collectors go absolutely crazy for them because they're one dash of dash a dash kind. So you might be asking, why does all this matter? Why are collectors willing to pay huge amounts for what most people think is just a regular quarter? The answer is simple: uniqueness and history. Every error tells a story. Every flawless coin from a high wear year like 1988 is a survivor. And every rare variety is a challenge for collectors to find, like a modern-day treasure hunt. For coin enthusiasts, it's not just about metal, it's about mystery, beauty, and rarity. Owning one of these rare 1988 quarters is like owning a piece of American craftsmanship that almost slipped through the cracks unnoticed. And now, it's time for the big reveal. The number you've all been waiting for. If you're lucky enough to have a 1988 Washington quarter with a major mint error or in a near-perfect mint state, especially one verified and graded by a professional service, it could be worth as much as $67,000. Yes, you heard that right, $67,000. For a single 25-cent coin. Imagine flipping through a jar of old change and finding one of these rare beauties sitting there, waiting to change your life. So before you spend that next quarter, take a closer look. Check the date. Look for errors. Examine the condition. Because that everyday coin in your hand might just be a small fortune in disguise. Thanks for tuning in, and if you found this video exciting or helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next rare coin story. We've got tons more incredible coin facts, values, and collector tips coming your way. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that millions of people have used, spent, or tossed into change jars without ever realizing its hidden potential, the 1967 Washington quarter from the United States of America. Now you might be thinking, it's just a quarter, what could possibly be special about it? Well, let me tell you, there's more to this coin than meets the eye. Because hiding among the millions that were minted that year are some rare and incredible versions that collectors are desperate to get their hands on. And in some cases, these coins have sold for jaw-dropping prices. Stick around to the end, because you're going to want to hear the shocking value of one rare 1967 quarter that could be hiding in plain sight. Let's get started. The 1967 Washington quarter is part of a fascinating chapter in American coin history. It came right after the United States stopped using silver in its quarters. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver, but due to rising metal costs and hoarding, the mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. Now here's the twist. Between 1965 and 1967, the U.S. Mint took some unusual steps. To discourage coin collecting during a coin shortage, they removed mint marks entirely from all coins, including the 1967 quarter. That means you won't find a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. This alone makes these years unique, and collectors pay close attention to them because of that. No mint mark doesn't mean no value, it means there's a story to tell. In fact, 1967 was a massive production year. Over 1.5 billion quarters were minted. So yes, this coin is common in circulation, but that's what makes the rare ones so exciting. When something is mass-produced, the rare survivors, the coins in perfect condition or with unexpected errors, become even more valuable. Let's talk about what makes certain 1967 quarters so special. First up, condition. If you've got a 1967 quarter that looks like it just came out of the mint, no scratches, no wear, perfect luster, it could already be worth far more than 25 cents. Coins like these are called mint state, and collectors love them. A coin graded MS-65 or higher is not easy to come by after more than 50 years, but here's where things really get interesting: minting errors. Some 1967 quarters were struck with dramatic, collectible mistakes. There are known examples of double die obverse, where the text or date appears doubled due to misalignment during the striking process. If you ever see two overlapping "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" inscriptions, that's not your eyes playing tricks, that's a real double die, and it's worth a second look. Then there's the off-center strike, where the design is noticeably shifted because the coin blank wasn't lined up properly during minting. These types of errors can be minor or extreme, and the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin. Some collectors have even reported 1967 quarters struck on the wrong planchet. That means instead of being struck on a standard quarter blank, the coin was accidentally made using a planchet meant for a dime, a penny, or even a foreign coin. These wrong planchet errors are exceptionally rare and highly prized in the numismatic world, and let's not forget die cracks, clipped planchets, and missing layers, all of which have been seen on coins from this year. Any of these rare features can increase a 1967 quarter's value significantly, especially if it's been professionally authenticated and graded. But why do collectors go wild for these quirks? Because in a sea of billions of coins, a flaw, something unexpected, is a treasure. These aren't just mistakes. They're accidents of history. They represent a moment when the mint, in its rush to supply the nation, let something unusual slip through. And for collectors, finding that 1 in a million coin is like striking gold. Now let's talk numbers. Because I know that's what you've been waiting for. Most 1967 quarters are only worth face value, but if you have one with a major mint error, in excellent condition, or a rare variant that's been professionally certified, you could be sitting on a coin worth $89,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $89,000 for a single Washington quarter from 1967.so. The next time you're sorting through your loose change, flipping through an old coin album, or cleaning out a drawer full of forgotten coins, keep your eyes open. That ordinary-looking quarter might just be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Thanks so much for watching. If you love learning about hidden treasures, rare coins, and the stories behind the money in your pocket, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video. Today, we're taking a closer look at a coin you might have in your pocket, piggy bank, or old junk drawer right now, the 1971 Washington quarter from the United States of America. But don't let its everyday appearance fool you, because some of these quarters have hidden secrets that can make them worth an absolutely incredible amount of money. Yes, we're talking about a simple 25-cent coin that could be worth far, far more. So make sure you stick around until the end, because I'm going to reveal exactly how much one of these could be worth, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Let's start by going back in time to the early 1970s. The year was 1971. America was coming out of the turbulent 1960s, the Vietnam War was ongoing, and the U.S. Mint was still adjusting to major changes in coin production. You see, just a few years earlier, in 1965, the mint had eliminated silver from quarters and shifted to a copper-nickel-clad composition. By 1971, this new metal mix was standard, but with new methods often come unexpected results, and that's where things get really interesting for collectors. The 1971 Washington quarter features the familiar and iconic design, George Washington's profile on the obverse, with the word Liberty arched above and In God We Trust to the left. The date, 1971, rests just below his neck. On the reverse, the fierce American eagle stands proudly with its wings spread wide, clutching arrows, symbolizing strength and preparedness. It's a design steeped in symbolism and history, but the real story of the 1971 quarter is in what you can't always see at first glance, because among the millions of 1971 quarters that were struck, there are a few with remarkable traits that collectors are absolutely hunting for. Let's talk about what makes these coins so desirable. First, condition. A typical circulated 1971 quarter isn't worth much more than face value. But one that's been preserved in near-perfect mint state condition? One that's never been touched, scratched, or worn. That's when you start talking about real collector value. Coins that are graded MS 65 and higher can fetch solid prices. But that's just the beginning. Now comes the truly exciting part, minting errors. These are what take a coin from interesting to extraordinary. There have been reports of 1971 quarters with double die obverse, which means that during the minting process, the die struck the coin twice, but not quite in the same place. This creates a ghost-like doubling effect, especially noticeable on the lettering, like Liberty, or the numbers in the date. If you ever see this kind of doubling, do not spend that quarter. It's rare, and highly collectible. Another error that makes collectors go wild is the off-center strike. That's when the blank wasn't lined up correctly in the press, and the image is printed noticeably off-center. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are also reports of clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is literally missing because of a mistake during the blank cutting process. Some 1971 quarters even have die cracks, where stress during minting causes fine cracks to appear on the surface of the coin, creating unique raised lines that add both character and value. But wait, it gets even more intriguing. A handful of 1971 quarters were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchets. For example, a quarter struck on a nickel blank or a foreign coin planchet would have a completely different weight, look, and even sound. These kinds of errors are ultra rare, and when discovered, they can send shockwaves through the coin collecting world. Now, let's bring it all together. If you're holding a 1971 Washington quarter that's in pristine condition, one that's been carefully preserved, professionally graded, and has a verified minting error, then you could be looking at something extremely valuable. We're not just talking about a few $100s. We're not even talking about a few thousand. Because one of these rare 1971 quarters, with the right combination of condition and error, has been valued at as much as $81,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A single 25-cent coin. Worth $81,000. So, before you spend that next quarter or toss it in the change jar, take a closer look. Check the date. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, clipped edges, or anything that seems even slightly unusual. You might be holding a hidden gem, one that's been quietly sitting in circulation, just waiting for someone like you to recognize it. That's the thrill of coin collecting. It's not just about metal. It's about history, mystery, and the joy of discovering something rare in the most unexpected places. Today, we're diving into a coin that might seem like just another piece of everyday change, the 1979 Washington quarter from the United States of America. But hold on, because this coin could be hiding something truly amazing. Believe it or not, certain rare versions of the 1979 quarter have been known to sell for thousands of dollars, and in one exceptional case, a jaw-dropping $73,000. So grab a seat and listen carefully, because you might just have one of these valuable coins in your own collection without even knowing it. Let's begin by looking at the basics. The Washington quarter has been a familiar face in American currency since 1932, created to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. The 1979 edition carries the same design we've seen for decades, Washington's proud profile on the obverse, with Liberty at the top, "In God We Trust," to the side, and the year, 1979, beneath his neckline. On the reverse, the striking image of a bald eagle, wings outstretched, perched on a bundle of arrows. It's patriotic. It's powerful. It's classic. Now, 1979 was a time of economic uncertainty and change. Inflation was high, gas prices were rising, and America was heading into the 1980s with a mix of optimism and anxiety. At the U.S. Mint, coins were being pumped out in massive quantities. Millions of quarters were struck that year, primarily at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. That means a lot of coins. But here's the key: not all of them were created equal. Let's talk about what separates a common 1979 quarter from a rare and highly valuable one. It comes down to condition, rarity, and the always exciting minting errors. First, condition. A 1979 quarter that's been through decades of wear and tear might not be worth much more than face value. But a coin that has been carefully preserved, never touched by human hands, and graded as mint state, especially MS-65 or higher, can already attract serious attention from collectors. That's just the starting point. Now here's where it gets fascinating. Some 1979 quarters were struck with unusual and valuable minting errors that make them incredibly rare. One example? Off-center strikes. These happen when the coin blank isn't perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a design that's skewed or missing part of the image. The more off-center the strike, the more collectible the coin becomes, especially if the date is still clearly visible. Then there's the double die error, where the coin shows signs of doubling on the letters or numbers, like Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself. These doubled images were caused by a misalignment in the die during striking, and they're one of the most exciting and desirable types of errors for coin collectors. Another highly rare and valuable variety is the wrong planchet error. This is when a quarter is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination, like a penny or a nickel, or sometimes even a foreign coin. These coins often have the wrong weight, the wrong color, or slightly different dimensions. They're true minting oddities and can be worth serious money. Even clipped planchets, where part of the coin is literally missing due to a flaw during the blank cutting process, can turn an ordinary 1979 quarter into something very special. These aren't your everyday coins, they're collector gold. Now here's something many people don't know. In 1979, the U.S. Mint also issued a lot of proof coins, especially from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. These were meant for collectors and never released into circulation. Most of them are beautifully struck, with a mirror-like finish. But every now and then, a proof coin will have an error or get released into circulation by mistake, and that's where things get very exciting. So why do collectors chase these coins with such passion? Because it's the thrill of the hunt. It's the idea that something so valuable could be hiding in plain sight. A coin you've passed over 100 times before could turn out to be a rare treasure. And once you've found one of these gems, you're not just holding a quarter, you're holding a piece of American history that survived the odds. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. If you have a 1979 Washington quarter with a rare minting error, especially in near-perfect condition, and it's been authenticated and professionally graded, your coin could be worth as much as $73,000. That's right. $73,000 for a coin most people wouldn't look twice at. So the next time you're going through your change, don't ignore the quarters. Take a second, check the date, inspect the details. You never know when you might find one of those rare and valuable pieces that could change your life. Thanks for joining me on this amazing coin journey. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you never miss a new story about rare coins, valuable errors, and the surprising wealth hiding in your pocket change. Until next time, keep hunting, stay curious, and remember, every coin has a story, and some are worth a whole lot more than 25 cents. Happy collecting, everyone.